Hey, what's up, everybody? Good morning. It is the Lore Lowdown time. This is the Lorcana Beehive. We are doing episode 13. So we are back at you. We're going to have a little bit of a different format this week, maybe a little shorter episode. We want to try out a few different things, but big news this week. So I'm joined again, as always, by Kevin and Sam. We have some great news this week. So the first thing that I kind of wanted to jump into because I'm Judge Justin is we have a new comprehensive rules document. Woo! Finally, let's go.
Yay.
Actually excited. Yeah.
It's something that's been long overdue. I think the entire judge community has been just so excited for something like this to pop up, and I mean it's finally here. I think all of our concerns have been addressed with the CRD. There's been a few new things that have popped up, but those are, I guess, more like nerd on the nerdy side than anything else, right? There's a lot of things about the CRD that's funny because it changed only a few play mechanics, but it changed a lot of the nerdy nitpicking that us judges have from the CRD, where it didn't clearly define things, and so we had to clearly define those things. Now the document does it for us, which is really nice. So, but yeah, I think
Takes a,
we'll,
that just takes weight off of you, right? Because
yeah,
it's like that way you have something to refer back to, and it's not like, oh, well, this judge said this, while the other judge said this, right? It's
yep.
really useful.
Well, it's always better to point to a document that tells
Hmm.
you the thing versus pointing to a Discord post
Hmm.
from 3 months ago from some random
Yeah,
person.
so some random
Right.
community out there that's like, what do you
Yeah.
guys know for
Yeah.
sure? Like, was that a real judge call? What are you guys talking about?
Well, it's like,
Hmm.
and I know the judge names on Discord because I work, I work with them, I talk with them a lot, but like, not everybody knows that, Googly Glimmers is one of the main judges for Lorcana, or, Judge Phil is one of the main judges for Lorcana. Like, not
Yeah,
everybody knows that. So,
if I see a
Hmm.
screenshot from Discord and it doesn't say Rav in the name, I'm like,
Are
hmm.
we sure?
you're like, I
Right.
don't know. Is that right? So, yeah, it's definitely a good thing to have an actual document to point to. So, very excited about that piece. And yeah, it will be lots of fun here. So I guess we'll just jump into it then with the rules documents. So I will go ahead and share my screen on this one, and we'll start breaking into different some of the rule changes. I'm going to refer to Joe's document, but I'm going to share all three documents that were shared. There's one from Ellie, there's one from Judge Phil, and there's one from Joe, aka Googly Glimmers. Um, I personally gravitate towards Joe's just because it's something that I kind of find to be helpful. So we'll go here and there.
Yeah, I feel
Excellent.
like the Googly Glimmers, this one you've got on the screen had just a set of examples.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, that was the
I
nice
agree.
thing that I was like, oh, there's an example to point to.
Yeah.
And this is the one that, really kind of had that for me. I think Phil's is very fun from like it's almost like reading a book, right? Like, and then Ellie's is just simplistic, right? It's something
Yeah.
it's very cut and dry, easy to look at. It's something good for like game shops to just print out and have at their tournaments if they're concerned about the new CRD and whether or not it's going to be a big concern for their player group. So the first one I wanted to talk about in here is, well, I guess before we get too far into the CRD, we should probably just talk about Grandma Willow's ruling first, as well as the Ariel ruling from last week. So we had official statements on both the Ariel ruling that Kevin brought up last week and then the Grandma Willow ruling, which originally I thought they were going to be the same, but I'm talking about them together because they are different. They are vastly different in the way that they are resolved. So with last week, if y'all remember, we were talking about Ariel, and the ruling with Ariel was, or the question around Ariel was, if I play two songs in a single turn, am I able to pick which of the two songs uh, Ariel triggers off of? And the short answer to that question is yes. We've gotten the official statement, and then also the CRD kind of cemented that with the ability to select when the May trigger occurs and if the limiting factor, which is once per turn, is tied to the actual song singing, or if the limiting factor is tied to the May. And the answer to that question is the limiting factor is tied to the May. So once per turn, when a song is sung, you may draw a card if there's a card underneath Ariel. And so the answer to that question is that, if there's multiple songs sung, you can pick whichever one you want to sing. If you sing an initial song, that doesn't take away your once per turn because the once per turn is tied to the May. Since you elected not to, now you still have that open at a later point. So I think that's what we
which
were
is
hoping it would turn
legit.
into. Right.
I love that.
And
Right.
Todd does work the same way. We were talking about that last
Hmm.
week as well, but Todd
Correct.
does have that May trigger. So same thing. You can pick and choose when you'd like to ready Todd.
Correct. Yeah. And so you can target him for something, and just because you targeted him for something doesn't mean that you've used up your May there. You still have to elect to perform the ready action. So you can't accidentally get rid of your once per turn. But on the flip side, we're talking about Grandma Willow, where I should probably just bring that card up. Let me find it real quick and stop share here. For Grandma Willow,
The main difference is it loses that May trigger, right?
yeah.
So this one's mandatory. So a helpful way, while he's bringing it up, I'll just summarize. A helpful way to think about it is that the very next character you play after playing, if you played Grandma Willow on your turn, the very next character you play, it would cost one less. That's just a static. It's not. It is mandatory. It's not a May effect, so it is static. And then if Grandma Tala had uh,
Grandma Willow.
last on your board, or Grandma Willow last to your board till the next turn, it's a start of turn thing. The very first character you play in a turn will have the discount.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, and I brought it up here. This is actually in the Ravensburger Play Hub or the Ravensburger Companion app, right? So when you open it up and you open up the card, this is one of the FAQs that's attached here to this card, which is, as Sam just explained, there's no May, right? And it's very clearly defined here as well, because there's no May. It is, you can interpret Grandma Willow as after you play this character, the next character you play gets -1. Now, if that character comes in for free, doesn't matter. That trigger's gone now. You
Mm.
don't get to do it on a later character. So you have to make sure you're sequencing this right, and you have to understand what you're doing when you're playing Grandma Willow. And then the subsequent turn, what I would recommend most people think of is it's almost like a beginning of turn thing, right? Because say for example, the first character you play on your turn during the set phase is your Lilo that's allowed to the escape artist that's allowed to come from the discard. The one minus will be tied to the Lilo. It will not be able to be tied to anything else. I can't think off the top of my head how this could be abused, but maybe, I don't know, Sam, what do you think of like how could somebody like abuse this if you're playing against them and they think that the card operates in a different manner? How would they potentially abuse this situation?
So one reason we were talking about how broken this card was last week, and
Right.
one of the reasons we were talking about that is because interpretation of the rules were slightly different. We kind of just figured it worked like Ariel, or just once during your turn. Like I'll choose the once, that's fine. Um, so it kind of affects things like if you're doing, say, you have a Stitch Rockstar in play, and you
Mhm.
have a Grandma Willow and you start doing a combo with Stitch Rockstar. You play a card, you exert, you draw, and then you get like a tramp in your hand, and it is reduced one already by a lady, and you want to introduce it one more with this Grandma Willow. If it wasn't the first card you played your turn, you wouldn't get that extra one. So
Mhm.
what people were doing were kind of saving these Grandma Willow interactions for when they had the biggest payout, right? So now that Pudge eats it, you have to be careful when you play a Pudge. Now that Willow eats it, you have to be careful when you play your Lilo. So the very first card you play is the most impacted by this, and the fact that it stacks and can be eaten by zero cost. I think it will change how these kind of Mainly dogs and Stitch Rockstar decks will function.
Hmm.
But one way that this can kind of get under you is if somebody still tries to do that against you. You know, they're like doing their combo and they're like, "Oh, I haven't used my Grandma Willow effect." But then you should confidently say, "No, you have. You just didn't realize."
Yep.
It got eaten by the first thing you played, whether it was the Stitch or the first character you played with Stitch. So don't let people like it's a soft cheat. It's not really. It could be a misinterpretation of the rules. Just let them know
Hmm.
it's a teaching moment rather than somebody's trying to cheat you.
Yeah,
But especially in a set champs or like no matter where you're playing, if somebody does this in the wrong manner, just let them know. But it's important because this is one of the top decks at the moment is this dog's strategy with Grandma Willow. You're going to see a ton of amber decks,
Yeah.
so don't let them get under you. If it seems malicious, like let somebody know, but use it as a teaching moment. Just the very next card they play, it activated. So don't let them try to tell you it didn't.
It's also important from a judge perspective to say that this is not a optional trigger. It's not a may. So it is still a mistrigger if, say, for example, they go through the whole progression of I played a character and they pay the full ink cost for it and all other stuff. It's still considered a mistrigger. And the way that mistriggers are handled properly in the CRD or in the play correction guidelines right now is if the trigger is missed and then it's realized later on in the turn and it's a mandatory trigger, it then goes to the player, the opposing player of whoever owns the trigger. So the non-Grandma Willow player to decide whether or not that trigger enters the bag right then. So it's not like something where, oh, you did use it and let's just fix it and solve the problem. Call a judge over, talk to the judge, figure out how we're going to go through this. And ultimately, what the judge should do is look at you as the opposing player and say, would you like to add Grandma Willow's trigger to the back? Or, well, it's not even necessarily a trigger, right? It's more of like a thinking about this is not a mistrigger because it's not a trigger. It's not even a trigger. So forget what I just
the,
said
the
because
static,
that's,
right?
yeah, it's a static ability. Um, this would have to be like a rewind scenario that the judge would have to go through. So actually doesn't even go to the opposing player. This is a whole different problem. It's not a trigger. So yeah, I mean, to that point of what Sam was saying though, they go through a bunch of playing of characters, then they pay the full cost for them and all this. Oh, well, I missed my Grandma Willow trigger, so let me get my one ink back. No, let's talk to a judge. Let's have the judge come over and the judge can decide if we want to rewind it. Now, with something like that, where we haven't passed turn and, there hasn't been a lot of other, like, I guess technically, though, the player could have like drawn cards to gain more
Hmm.
knowledge. There's a lot of things that can change between when Grandma Willow is supposed to trigger and when they figure out that they missed it or not trigger when Grandma Willow was supposed to reduce the cost of a character and they figure out that they missed that. Um, yeah, so definitely call a judge over and make the judge go through the investigation because to what Sam was saying there, if you let the other player go through it, there may be some malicious things that happen. Most of the time it's going to just be accidental, especially early
Oh,
on.
sure.
But yeah, so it's
This is
worth
giving me this is giving me like sad beast vibes when people would miss the sad
yeah.
beast draw
Mm.
at the beginning of the turn because it was mandatory too.
Yep.
So
The
yeah.
only difference is I can see how so like a mandatory I have to draw a card changes the game state dramatically, right?
Mhm.
Sure.
But this
Absolutely.
one it's like, well, it was reduced, you just didn't notice. Like you the least the worst that's going to happen is you lose an ink, right? So it's
Right.
like the game is affected, but not in the same way as like drawing a card is affected because drawing a card is so much knowledge. Like that changes so
Mhm.
much. Like
But
the game is entirely shifted. Whereas an ink is like now you're just limited on what you can do with your existing cards.
Right.
yeah.
So
I mean, but to
uh,
be fair, if we're talking aggro decks, like they
Yeah.
need to be utilizing every single ink. I mean,
it's
the
very important.
difference there is like a daisy, which is could be huge.
I think the one
So,
that jumps out to me the most is like play dock, discard, draw two, and you're like,
hmm.
ooh, I got a one drop,
Yep.
right? Like,
Oh,
Right,
and
I can play that for free. No, you can't.
no, you can't because you missed that, right?
And also your
right.
dock only costs one. So
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think there's scenarios where you could obviously just want to be careful with it, right? Like I think
Sure.
that's the rule of thumb. And then the main delineation here is like there's gonna be, I guarantee there will be people that are like, oh, it's just like Ariel, or it's just like like I thought it was that way
Hmm.
too, right?
It's
I
very
thought it was
easy
gonna
to
be
read
that
the
way.
rules like that. Like once per turn, once during your turn.
Yeah.
So just once you pay
Hmm.
one.
Yeah.
So
And we are yet a victim of Lorcana trying to make their cards have as least amount of text as possible. So here we are. Uh, awesome. Well, I think that kind of covers it, right? I think we have a good grasp on what this piece is. We know what Grandma Willow does. We know what Ariel does.
Hmm.
So, mission accomplished, Kevin. I did my job over the last
Thank
week.
you. I appreciate it.
The
And to
CRD's releasing
every
was all me. It was not nobody else. Like the fact that I asked about it was the reason why they released the new CRD.
yeah,
absolutely.
you were the impetus behind getting them to just get it out there. So I get
A
it. Lit
hundred
the
percent. They
lit
were
lit
like,
the fire.
They were like, if Judge Justin is asking, we better put it out there because
Get him anything he asks for.
make it happen. But awesome. So I mean, with that in mind, let's jump into the next stuff that we want to talk about with CRD. And that is, let's see here. Okay, some crazy changes, right? I mean, the first thing that I want to mention because I've attempted to do it in Infinity is RIP to Mill.
I'm so
So
sad.
Mill is basically dead. Milling your
Poor,
opponent is less likely than it was, and it was even really
It
low
was pretty.
likelihood before.
It wasn't happening before, so
yeah, pour one out for the thing that never happened.
Yeah, right.
exactly.
But I mean, for those who don't know, Mill previously was, or basically when you would lose the game if you went to draw a card from the top of your deck and there was no cards in the top of your deck, right? So if you went to draw a card and all of your 60 cards were not there, then you would lose the game on the spot. But what the reasoning for the change here is because they created some weird interactions where both players could draw their last card at the same time. And so what they've written into the CRD is if you end your turn and there's no cards in your deck, meaning you have zero cards in your available deck, then you lose the game at that point. So what this changes is that previously, when we were talking about mill, you could just mill your opponent out on your turn. They would go to draw their last card. There's no card. They lose the game.
Hmm.
Now, if you mill your opponent out, meaning they have zero cards in their deck, and then they go to draw a card, and there's no cards there, it doesn't lose them the game. They still get a turn after that. So you pass your turn over to them. Whatever cards they have in their hand, they have their ability to try to finish the game that way. And I mean, I can definitely attest to this because the several times that I did mill somebody, they were one turn away from winning, right? Like they
Hmm.
had enough cards on the board to be able to win the game. And so normally what's going to happen there is they're just going to quest out, win the game. And, sad mill strategy is dead. There's also scenarios where like you could mill out your opponent and then you can put cards back into your deck, right? There's
Right.
the song card that lets you put all cards from underneath another card into your deck, into that player's deck, right? And so you could put all your Cheshire Cat cards back into your deck, and then you're not milled out anymore. So
Hmm.
there's some stuff that you can do with this, but yeah, RIP to mill. We'll miss it.
I was
We
going to
love
say
you,
this
Mel.
ruling change is a very, very slight buff to the current OTK combo with yellow purple, right?
Yeah.
Now you can do things where instead of just using whale to draw your last card and then like being really careful not to draw again because you'd lose, right? You can do stuff like Woodchuck's guidebook to draw like two cards if they're the last, like there's one card in your deck, or a common play in that deck was to your last card in hand's circle. You sing circle and you bring back a Demona and draw three.
Hmm.
If you're only drawing one or two cards, you can resolve that effect now and then just
Hmm.
go from there. If you know they're going to be like, we know the way. I don't know. There's some interactions where it could come up, but very slight, very
Yep.
slight buff.
Indeed. That deck was already kind of exciting when it
And that's
hit
what's,
its combo, right?
oh
So,
yeah.
Hmm.
yeah.
Now you can think about it a little bit more. You're like, oh, how can I Can I get this through this a different way?
Yeah.
It's interesting because I don't think any other card game, at least no other card games that I know, work mill this way. I think it's very
Correct. This
unique.
is the only one. Yeah.
Yeah. They're being different. And yeah, I mean it is what it is. I think it also feels bad to get milled out. I've been on the other side of it and it doesn't feel great, but I think it was such a challenging win con that
Yeah.
it was almost like it was deserved when they got it. You're like, hey, I guess
Right.
you did it, right? Congrats.
Well, it
But
Right.
also, well, some of it too is a little understandable, right? Because if you're a mill deck and you whole new world, yourself first,
Hmm.
you have lost the game.
right.
Exactly.
And now they're, if you're playing mill, maybe there's a strategy where you get your both of you down to 0 cards, right? And then you have a card that just puts it right back.
Yep.
And then you pass turn.
Right.
Hmm.
I don't know. But it kind of, I can see why the ruling exists to get around stuff like that because it felt kind of weird that, like, oh, because I played the card, I lose. That's weird.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is that like for me, when I built my mill deck, I built it with 72 cards instead of 60 because I
Yeah.
didn't
Right.
want to run into that situation. I didn't
Now
want to
you
run
can
it.
play 60 cards in a mill deck. Maybe it makes them more consistent. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean
So
that is the other question.
I wouldn't say rest in peace to Mill, but
Yeah.
maybe Mill changes their strategy to be. But
Yeah.
it definitely sucks that your opponent gets a whole turn.
It
Like,
feels
It
oh
bad.
does.
no.
It
It
feels bad
does.
emptying their hand and then being or emptying their whole deck and then being like, "All right, go ahead and respond." And like I said, Mill doesn't necessarily have a lot of like big removal stuff either.
Yeah,
It's not like it's like got an empty board and they're clearing your deck. It's like,
it does more things like you bounce cards to their hand and then
And
mill them
then
away,
discard
right?
from there.
Yeah.
Right.
But I will say, I think they could have, added a second, like a clause to this where it's like, if it's in the middle of your turn, you don't immediately lose the game. That's fine, right? But if you start your turn with 0 cards in deck, I think that should lose you the game 100% of the time.
right, because I mean the draw for turn effect, right? That to me feels like,
Yeah, if you can't resolve the draw for turn effect, I think you should lose.
yeah,
But I do agree with the in the middle of your turn, if you go down to 0 cards, you should like, and you try to draw more, that should not lose you the game.
right.
But I feel like they went a little too far with the you have to end your turn with 0 cards at deck
Yeah, I think having the clause that like you can't start your turn or end your turn with
with
zero
zero
cards. I
cards.
think that
Right.
would have been
Hmm.
better too.
I
I
agree.
agree. I think that would have
I'm
been a
sure they thought about it and yanked that out, but I'm not sure why. We'll just never know. But
yeah,
I think that could have been appropriate.
indeed.
I agree. I agree.
All right. Well, let's get into the two most important ones that I think that the update to the CRD did, right? And then we'll break up some of this rule monotony with some metagame discussion so that we're
Yeah.
not just talking about rules the whole time. But the two main things that I think people need to look out for with the change to the CRDs, and I'll kind of highlight them here. So the first one is secondary conditions slash ifs are easier. And the way that that works is that previously, if you had a secondary condition in a trigger, it had to be true when it was entering the bag and when it was exiting the bag. So previously, the best example we have here is Stitch Surfer, where his card reads, when you play this character, if you have two or more other characters in play, you may draw two cards. And so the scenario here is it's a crazy scenario. Let's say, it's you're in an Infinity deck and you're running the Mufasa Betrayed Leader, which allows you to look at the top card of your deck after it's banished. And if it's a character card, it comes into play exerted. So previously, what would happen here is if you had three Mufasas and your opponent plays a B prep, you look at the top card of your deck and it's a Stitch Surfer. And you're like, let's go. I'm going to play my big old body Stitch Surfer. Oh no, I can't do my trigger because I don't have two other characters on the board. Now, the way that the ruling works, so previously it would just never happen. You would never get that trigger into the bag because you're playing out the Stitch Surfer and you don't have the two other characters on the board to be able to draw the two cards. But now, because we had three Mufasas, what we would do is we would play the Stitch Surfer. That trigger of when you play this character, if you have two or more other chosen characters in play, you may draw two cards. That trigger still enters the bag. It's in there, hanging out. And you still have to resolve your other two Mufasa effects because they came before the trigger effect from Stitch, right? So your other two triggers from Mufasa have to be resolved. and say you hit two more characters on those two triggers from Mufasa, right? We're hitting we're living the dream here.
Hmm.
Now, when we go to resolve the bag that has Stitch's trigger in it, because that's a different bag, when we go to resolve that trigger, that bag that has Stitch's trigger in it, we do have two characters in play. And so now when we pull that out of the bag, we're able to draw the two cards. So previously, something like that would not have worked. Now it does. This is going to open up the game for some interesting skill expression when it comes to these secondary conditions. And if you're confused about what a secondary condition is, it is anything that comes after the word if. So you have like for example with this one we have when you play this character if you have two or more or more other characters in play, you may draw two cards. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool actually, because there have been situations, at least I remember when playing early Amber Steel, where I missed the Stitch trigger specifically
Mhm.
Mhm.
because of a similar situation. So now, I think they buffed up our favorite space alien.
Yep. And I
Yeah.
think it's important to note too that like it's not like you could play Stitch and then play two characters and then resolve
Yeah.
it, right? Like
Sure, sure,
because the trigger enters the bag after you play the character, and then you have to empty the bag, right? Like
right,
so it would have to be something that occurs during that same or either before or during that same bag process. So,
sure.
with this scenario that we talked about, because the Mufasa triggers were in a previous bag, you were able to still play those other two characters. But, we have other cards that are going to be potentially impacting this. And then this is not the only secondary condition trigger, right? That's the
Right.
next goal I have is to go and find pretty much every secondary condition and see if there's interactions with those that may be changed by this new ruling in the CRD.
Oh, that'd be fun. Some homework for you, right?
There
Yeah,
you go.
yeah, yeah. It's more stuff to do, which is exciting. And then the other one that I wanted to mention is for free is now going to, it's not that it's not just an alternate cost, it's that it ignores all other alternate costs. That's the main piece of this. So previously, you had some really interesting interactions where you could create combos from playing items for free. So, for example, we have a card called Down in New Orleans that lets you look at the top three cards of your deck, reveal a character, item, or location with cost six or less, and play it for free. Previously, some people would create combos with, say, like Powerline, where you could find this card that costs six or less, and it's a song, or sorry, or reveal a character, item, or location. So actually different. So previously, you could find a character card like, say, Powerline, and you could shift him onto an existing power line so that you could then sing a song with power line and create this crazy combo, right? That just went spiraling out of control because now when you've sung a song with power line, you're singing another song with power line. And you can create some fun combos that way. That is no longer possible because if you play a card for free, you cannot then select to shift that card. You cannot then select to if it's a song, you cannot then select to sing that card, right? So another scenario would be like you have, a singer on board that you want to use to sing a song because it has an alternate effect. The one that jumps out to me is Ursula, Deceiver of All, or I don't know. No, Max Goof doesn't work because it's on Quest, but Ursula, Deceiver of All would be the example there, where like you have a song, you want to sing it because if you sing it, now you double sing it. But that's not going to be possible. If you're playing something for free, you ignore all other ways to play that card. So you cannot shift, you cannot sing. So that changes some of those combo decks a little bit. So keep an eye out for that because this is another one where
Hmm.
if your opponent's not familiar with the changes to the CRD, it could be something where they still try to play it the way it was previously available to do so. So super
Right.
important
And
with that.
honestly, I think this just makes it more intuitive, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, I think we were talking about this before the episode, right? Sam, you were like, I think that's the way that I always assumed it worked, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Like,
it felt very intuitive, right? Because if I play down in New Orleans, right, and then I'm looking at the top three cards of my deck, and I have a character, For some reason, it always stuck out into my mind that I'll just play that character for free. It never occurred to me that I'd be like, oh, I can shift it
Yeah.
because it for free kind of has a different um kind of effect in the way it's worded rather than something like you know how Lantern can reduce a shift cost, right?
Yeah.
Those like I don't know why I thought about those differently, but when I read this, I was like, wait, isn't that the way it already worked? So,
Right.
but no, I think that the people that are doing that were very clever in the past, but I think a handy way to think about it now is that you can only do one alternate cost, right?
Yep.
Because singing is an alternate cost, playing it for free is an alternate cost, but you can only do one of those for the card.
Right.
So
Right. And you have to
don't get tripped
ignore
up. Don't think
everything
about it too
else.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just only one alternate cost.
Yeah, and I mean the
Hmm.
one from the next set that's I think a lot of people looked at was the Retro Evolution device with the Brave Little Prince Mickey Mouse. That if you shift the Brave Little Prince Mickey Mouse, or if you has a card underneath him, he becomes the Brave Little Tailor. You can't do that anymore, right? If you have your Mickey Mouse Brave Little Prince in hand, you can play him for cheaper, or you can play him for free, right? If you
Hmm.
then banish a one cost character, but you cannot then elect to shift him because you're playing him for free, and so you must ignore the shift alternate cost as well.
Yeah, and I think this one's handy and why people thought about it in the first place is because he's the one the is he the only card? I think he's the only card that has a shift cost greater than his cost.
I think he is. Well, I think
You
there's
only one
there's some that
currently,
have like
right?
insane costs. I think the oh no, there's the what is her name? Magicka Dispel. That's like a seven cost card, but then it's like a seven cost shift as well.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Hmm.
But
yeah.
I think this is the only one that's like egregiously over,
Yeah.
like the shit is overcosted, right?
Right.
So I
Hmm.
can understand when you're thinking about that card specifically that you're like, oh, if I can play for free, that's cool.
Yeah.
But it does not work that way,
Right.
which I think is fine.
Yeah.
I think it's handy to clarify this part of the rules too, because I didn't expect the rules to work like that, and I'm not sure if there's any people like me that's appreciated that it's clarified now.
Oh,
I
I
appreciate it.
definitely appreciate it because the first time I did a judge quiz on the rulebook hub quizzes that had this like crazy select an alternate cost thing to create a combo. I was like, "What? You could do that?" And it's like, I mean, it's not 2 months ago that I first learned that you could do that
Yeah.
scenario, but and now obviously they've written it in the CRDs that it's not possible anymore. So that's nice. But yeah, those are those two main ones. Beyond that, I would encourage all of y'all, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to post on the Discord three separate documents. So we'll post John's or Joe's document here, the from Googly Glimmers. This one's really fun to read through. It didn't take me long. I think it took me maybe 20 minutes to read through this. It looks a little daunting, but he's got some fun gifts to keep it going. And then Ellie created a document here that is a little bit more condensed and reminiscent of like just a visual aid, right? This would be a great one for like stores to maybe print out coming up with the new set release and just have it available for your tournament so that people can see it. It has some very quick references to the different items that are changing coming up, and so it's worth noting. Definitely this is a good option. And then the final one that I'll mention is Judge Phil's. So for those who don't know, Judge Phil was the head judge of DLC Richmond, and he head judges quite a few different Lorcana events. So his is more, I think, thematic or story driven, right? It feels like more of a story or more like a journal. So if that's something that fits your reading style a little bit better, definitely go take a look at his stuff too. But we have three different documents where these very respected judges in the community have gone through, combed through those CRDs. They've taught. We had like a live, like a Discord live with each other, and we all kind of like brought up different things and talked about how this interaction should be different here, or interpreting the different interactions and how the CRDs work. So definitely a lot of work went into this, not only from these judges, but other judges in the community as well. So definitely worth taking a look at those and keeping an eye on them, and give those judges a follow on their social medias and whatnot. Give them some love. They're great pillars to the community. So
I do want to
And
say before we move on from the rules as well, especially as players, for the over the next few weeks, even maybe months, I would give some more patience and grace to people still learning the new changes. There's going to be some growing pains, especially with cards that affect game states more than others, right? So, if you read up on these documents and you encounter somebody that maybe hasn't doesn't know that they exist, point them in the right direction, give them, hey, there's a couple links, here's, like, join this Discord, whatever you want to do, but give some grace to your coming opponents in the coming weeks, and we'll all get through it together.
I
Absolutely.
totally agree with that. Like, not everyone that we play are super nerds like us. Just
Yeah,
saying. Like,
we we have to do this. This is
like
our job now, so
Yeah, yeah.
this is what we do.
Yeah, we're on Saturdays, right? Just recording away.
Right. And not everyone finds the joy in searching through CRDs like we do.
that's right.
Just saying.
Yep.
So especially and when you're saying that, like especially with kids, like if
Yep.
you're playing any younger kids that definitely are not reading this, like feel free to educate and use it as an opportunity to explain and not and with no judgment.
Absolutely.
Is we're having fun. It's a game, guys.
Yep. I agree. It's awesome. And always call a judge. Always call a judge. If you feel like the ruling's not fair, it is one of those things that as a player, you have one of the best resources available to you when there's a judge at the event, which is you have a third party that can explain the situation to your opponent so that your opponent doesn't have to feel like you are trying to shark them in some way, shape, or form.
If you're at a local game store too, and there's not a judge present, the TO doesn't really, or like the people there don't really know what's going on. They're just kind of running a Lorcana event, and
Hmm.
I think it's important sometimes if you do know the rules, you know them pretty confidently. It's important to become an ambassador
Mhm.
kind of role in that point and be like, listen, I
Absolutely.
I know there's like this argument going on, but I have extensive knowledge of the rules. Like I read the document, I can kind of shed light here. So help them out when you can.
Absolutely.
Also, Judge Justin will be putting his personal cell phone number in our chat, just so you
Always.
know, to
Yeah,
call him
absolutely. It's always in there, right? You can
Day or night.
yeah, call me at 2 a.m. I have this judge ruling that I need to know about. But
out.
very exciting. Good stuff with the CRDs. If you haven't read through them, please read through them. I know it's not the most page turner of reading possible. It is very dry and sometimes confusing. But just read through them. It's worth it. Like I said, if nothing else, just look at those summaries that those three put in there, and you're going to be in a good place. But yeah, moving on from the boring stuff, let's get into a little bit of meta discussion, right? I think we're getting into set 11 excitement full, and it's amber, amber everywhere.
Everywhere.
We love Amber.
Yes. So,
Absolutely. I think they're the clear winners of the set, right? Set
yeah.
11. If you look through the set list, you're like, wow, Amber got a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
And I think that's what people, if you look at deck lists, if you look at people testing,
Hmm.
they're all testing Amber stuff. How do we make dogs better? How do we make Amber Steel better? How do we make a new deck? How do we make the blue yellow control? How do we make um Amber
Red,
Ruby work?
Amber Ruby, you're right.
Yeah.
I love the idea that Amber Ruby is going to be something that's somewhat viable, right? Because it's just been a color combination that's been dead since like Bufasa,
It
right? Or
that
the
Yeah,
Mufasa deck, right?
Mufasa was the last time you actually like it was super playable. I remember that's how I won my Stitch champion match. I
Let's
was like,
nice,
I
go.
played
nice.
freaking Mufasa.
Yeah.
Mufasa is the best.
It was sweet, but like nowadays you're like, I can't do Mufasa stuff. How do I even play this deck? But
Yeah.
uh, they've always been close too, right? Because they had like Be Prepared and Ariel. You're like, well, how can I make a
Mhm.
song version? But there was never enough
It was always
to
just
make
the
it work.
card draw, right? Like we were missing the card draw, and now we
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
have card draw on both sides of the board, right?
We
Because
kind of
we
have
have
like this pseudo ramp too, with Ruben and that song that reduces the
Willow,
cost. And
Lantern. Hmm.
yeah, there's ways to kind of ramp in the deck now.
yeah,
And you've got Ohana means family. There's just a few more ways. So we're seeing like an Amber Ruby mid range pop up that's like pretty cool. I want to test it.
yeah,
I mean, the fun part, and as I've clearly stated, I love aggro decks, but I've never been more tempted to swap to a control deck now because there's an Amber control deck.
Yeah.
Like, and it looks like a lot of fun.
See, underestimated you Amber fans. You just love playing that color, and that's
It's a
something
great
I
color.
I just had to realize. So I was like, I didn't know there was that many people just out here fighting for their lives with Amber.
Man, the fact that people have been living on, kind of, I guess, magic beans with Amber for the last like three
It
sets.
was it was Daisy in
A,
a dream, right? For
Yeah,
a
like five
solid
sets in a
diet,
row.
a solid diet of magic beans over here.
yeah. I don't know. I need some love to, I need a little bit more love to Ruby, and then I think I'll be in a good place. Just because I'm a big fan of Ruby in general from a color perspective. I love red. Red's like my color. But yeah, I think the amber is a step in the right direction, right? We didn't like the funnest part about this is that last set we were just like, oh my gosh, amethyst, it got more stuff.
Hmm.
And then this set, they still were, it seemed like it was going that route. Honestly, early on when we started seeing reveals, we're like, oh no, the marshmallow. We have
Right.
another
Yeah.
amethyst card that's gonna ruin our day. But then Amber decided to clutch it out, so that worked out in I think everyone's
Hmm.
favor. So
Well, if
We
I
forgot.
think if we can keep the aggro decks to like the same like 10 to 12% of the meta share,
mhm.
you'll see some more of these like ruby lists come into fruition, right? Because there's that like sapphire ruby that's really cool. Like it
Yeah.
got a bunch of new cards. The new Pete is crazy.
The
I
Pete's
don't know how we
awesome.
missed that on
I
the
I
like
don't know either. That's
when we were talking
crazy
about
good.
like impactful cards that are coming in the set. We should have put Pete on that list for sure. That thing is nuts.
Oh yeah. And if you guys
Honest.
don't know, Pete, the way he works, he's a 5'5", big old fat body, and he's a boost one. And when you quest with Pete, if you have whatever however many cards you have underneath him, you draw that or you look at that many cards, you keep one and put the rest at the bottom of your deck. So it's like a
It's like a vision
yeah, it's a
on
vision that
quest.
you can make
Yeah.
bigger on quest, and it's on a
Yeah.
5'5" body. So it's like
And you don't reveal it to your opponent. You just take the card. It's
yeah.
so good. It's like I quest, I draw one every time, but
Yeah.
also I get a filter all
Mhm.
so many cards.
I mean, at worst
So
Oh,
case
good.
I.
scenario, if you can boost it twice, it becomes a develop and
Yep.
on quest, and
On
Mhm.
you're like,
quest.
that's amazing.
And he's hard to get rid
Right.
of.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I saw this card initially and I was like, is this kind of like that Inkland Sisu? Like, because that's what Sisu sort of did when she
Yeah.
quested. She did that, and she was not good at all.
Hmm.
She would never stop play. So I was like, maybe I can just brush this under the rug. But it's really the body that makes it. The
Yeah.
fact that Pete is so sticky, man.
And those decks are already ramping into it. You know, like it
Hmm.
comes out early enough to where like I can't like Thunderbolt doesn't do enough damage to this card.
No.
So
Right.
how do I kill it?
Yeah. No. It's and that's the thing is the 5 willpower really kind of throws a bunch of stuff over, and the fact that it can itself deal 5 damage, it has 5 strength
Damage.
itself.
Yeah.
That and it adds so much like great possibilities to the card, and it's inkable.
Yep.
Like, what else do you need? Like, it's everything
It's
that you need it to be.
Hmm.
it's got all the sauce for like a 5 drop, and we kind of missed that one. So
Yeah.
apologies for that, but invest in Pete. I think it's a good card.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great
going
card.
for
If it can
$6.
survive the aggro storm. I don't know if
Yes.
you guys have been on social media lately, but it is aggro all the way down. People
Everyone's just
scared of
hating on
aggro,
aggro.
people loving aggro, people that want to just stir the pot. There is some rage bait
Hmm.
online right now. I can tell you that much. It's crazy.
That's like, I don't know. It keeps happening. I saw it the first
Every
time I
set.
saw it was
Every
with
set.
Diablo, and then they started targeting Hiram, and then it's just one of those things where I'm like, I don't know, the cynical person in me has to just be like, hey, get good. I have nothing else to say to you other than like,
I think some of the arguments are valid though. Like, you
yeah,
know, when Daisy was revealed, everybody was dooming, but we at least at that point we had Brawl, we had Fox,
yeah,
you know?
Hmm.
Like there are so many more options back then for dealing with early pressure than there are now.
yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So I think some of the like the fear is a little bit warranted. Like, what am I supposed to do against like the guy that gets Rockstar Stitch down on 3 because of Willow? Like, what do I do against that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some play lines that are interesting, and what will really come up is how much of these play lines are going to be high rolly slash Exodia-esque play lines,
Hmm.
or what are these play lines are going to be like, okay, you got that one in every 30 games. and it just does not happen enough for it to be justified, right? Like thinking back to the fabled meta with Amber Steel aggro and how if it hit its line, you just lost the game, right?
Yeah.
And so that piece of it, I think, will be the question. I think Grandma Willow is, regardless of how much the rule clarification changed her, she's going to be a really influential card. Period.
Anytime you can play
Mm,
for free in an aggro deck, you're winning.
Yeah.
There's
loving everything.
super high roll lines come out of that. Like there's
Hmm.
Pudge, there's the
Yeah.
Grandma Willow, just reducing everything, playing Rockstar Stitch. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it's going to
It's
be really
amazing, is
interesting.
what you're saying.
Well, and I think wasn't there that new card that lets you deal damage to multiple characters? It's not grab your sword, but it's like the same
Oh, grab
idea.
your bow.
Grab your bow,
Yeah,
right?
grab your bow. But
It's
I
a double
think
brawl.
I'm
Yeah.
scared of it because it comes out too late a little bit. Like people keep talking about, well, if aggro's so good, just modify your deck to beat it. I'm like, well, yeah, that's duh.
Yeah.
First of all,
Yeah.
like it's kind of insulting. You think I wouldn't like
Of course.
modify my deck to beat aggro?
I
You know what I mean?
never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
But like if you're just like, okay, just run spooky then. If you're talking about a blue deck, well, spooky comes out when they're already at 15. Like I don't know if I can. Like first of all, they have a Rockstar Stitch. The spooky doesn't get rid of, and second of all, like I just gave them 20 ink for Rockstar Stitch.
Well, and can we talk
Mm,
about how the two board wipes that we have to deal with aggro, both Spooky and Raging Storm, they're both actions. And so Mowgli can hit both of them.
Correct.
mhm.
So it's not like
Right.
this is a scenario where you have to really have some crazy play lines to try to stop aggro when it's at its best.
Yeah.
And it really will be a tale of the tape as we get into this meta to see what actually happens with aggro and how it could be, detrimental to the overall meta game. But
I do think there's some validity to this. The fear always happens, right?
mhm,
The fear's always
Fear of
there.
aggro is always there, and then it ends up being like 10% of what's played at a DLC, and
Hmm.
everybody over exaggerated, and then
yeah.
and especially early on, people just they build more low to the ground decks, like you don't see the
Hmm.
control. That's why blue green only popped up at the end of last set rather than the beginning, right?
Mhm,
But I think there's some validity now where aggro is a little bit too consistent
mhm.
in what it's trying to do. They've given them too many boons. So people think like deck building kind of goes away when aggro's the best deck. And I don't think that's really true. I think that's an over exaggeration too. Like
Yeah.
deck building just changes. It doesn't go away, right? It
Hmm.
just changes. Like you might not be able to play the cool, like greedy control line you want to play.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's good or bad, but it does the further you give aggro, it does kind of limit the top end of what you can do. Like control, like they do print all these cool control like top end cards like Raging Storm,
Mhm.
even like the Grandma Tala. It's the cost one.
Hey.
Yeah,
Justice for
like
Grandma Tala! Justice for Grandma
you
Tala!
can't play those types of cards if you're gonna lose on turn 6. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
So,
I
I
do
mean,
think it's kind of cool that decks are going to come out. Like the Amber Ruby even excels because it kills aggro so bad. You know what I mean?
I
Mhm.
think that's it though. I really think that when you see these hyper aggro decks that are doing well, people will modify, people will change.
Yeah.
But you're correct. I think if there's a lot of different tools that are easy and available for aggro to make them super duper consistent, I think that it's going to polarize how deck building is made.
Yeah.
Because I mean, historically, when we had Daisy, when we had all these other fun aggro tools that came out that were shiny and new, people adjusted. I mean, I went up against what was it? I went up against Blurple decks that were running the Royal Guard and the Hypnotize, right? Or Hypnotize Strength or whatever it is. That, gave it the strength it needed to take out Daisy in turn two, which was awesome. Or Hypnotic Strength is what it's
Yep.
called.
Yep.
And and then I'm those mid-range decks, those middle line steel decks, amethyst decks, things like that, they adjusted so that they could help with mitigating the amber aggro threats. But what I think we'll see, and could be wrong, is that we're going to have more polarized deck building, one that's
Mhm.
specifically for handling the super consistent aggro decks that are going to be not so great into the control decks. But then we'll have some mid-range decks that are maybe okay at handling the aggro decks unless they hit their, their super duper line,
It's gonna
and that are a little
be
bit better into the
it's
control
going to
decks
be a
as
lot more
well.
true rock paper scissors now, right? You're going to
Right.
have like your aggro decks that beat control decks, and then you're going to have your like
Hmm.
mid-range low to the ground stuff that beat control but lose to control, and then
Hmm.
then that just goes in a loop.
It goes in a loop,
Mhm.
But
which some people really don't like, honestly. But
yeah, it does kind of it limits. So sometimes you feel like, oh, my skill expression kind of went away because I just hit my hard counter, right? Like that just
hmm
sucks. But that's
exactly.
present. Like it's kind of present in every card game, and it's like the true key to a healthy meta, right? You need all three to like
Yeah.
make sense. But I think the last time we saw aggro do like exceptionally well was Fabled,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
And I don't think aggro is going to do as well as it did in Fabled for this set. And I think it's due to uh just the amount of options we do have, right? We do have cards that actually deal with aggro. We got that
We
like
do.
underdog card that deals like attacks for 4,
Hmm.
right? Kind of keeps the locks aggro down. We have ways to get rid of Chromacon. We have ways to, we have deck building tools. Whereas when Fable came out, we had like Elsa and we had whatever was printed in set 9. Like
Right.
we didn't have as much. So this Amber Steel deck kind of ran away with it because there were very few options. There was like blue green greedy high roll can beat it
Hmm.
if you're greedy high roll.
Right.
Right.
So and one of the reasons that like aggro has a low meta share in general is because it's the first thing people counter
Hmm.
when building decks, right? When you're going to an event, like what do I need to beat? And it's aggro every time. That's your first thought. It's what people test the most when the set's new. It's what people are going to be playing. So that's why it always does poorly, or it doesn't have like crazy meta share because you're like the people that play aggro are all in, right?
Yeah.
If they hit their bad matchup, they just lose.
Yeah.
So you have like only 10% of the room or 15% of the room even takes that risk.
Yeah. And I think the question is, does this change the logic a little bit? Because you go from, like, we always talk about the three, right? We have aggro, mid-range, control, aggro, mid-range,
Yeah.
control every time. So does this change it to where we no longer have like a traditional mid-range, but we have like shades of mid-range, right? Like we've got a
Mhm.
spectrum of mid-range here where like you're gonna try to tool it either direction. Last set we had to tool the mid-range very much to try to handle the bigger control decks. This set, we might just have to bring it back towards the aggro decks again. And then that will potentially balance it out. Who knows? But like, I still get back to the idea that, as much as people are, oh, I hate aggro and aggro's always kicking my butt. And it's one of those decks that, people they just go window wipers on me and stuff. Honestly, that's not the way to represent aggro, first off, because aggro is got a much higher skill expression than just window wipers, right? Depending on the level of the player, yeah, it can be window wiper. But if you're talking about someone who really wants to win the majority of their matchups, they're going to find their spot to quest. They're going to find their spot to make a very intelligent trade on your board and then quest. They're going to find their little niche ability to make their deck as good as possible.
Yeah.
So you can't represent it that way. And I will also remind everybody that Red Blue destroyed the meta for I don't know how long, and there was nothing more gutting when playing the game than you're playing and you're just like going, you're crushing. And then they're like, be prep. And you're like, well, that sucks. All right, it's fine. I got three characters. I've been waiting for this. I knew it was coming. You play all three characters, be prep. And you're like, ugh. And then
And
you
I'm
go,
done.
and then you get somehow like by a prayer, you're like, all right, well, if I can just get a couple of characters to stick, I'm okay. Big Sisu. And you're like, gah. It's just this constant thing. And it was frustrating. And it was frustrating to the point where people were like, seriously, like, hey, red blue's a problem. Red blue's a problem. It's like, I
Mhm.
get it. I understand that these decks are good. And I understand that there can be some frustration. There can be some concern about the meta being unhealthy due to it. But let's not go crazy and be like, oh my gosh, this card needs to be banned. As much as I understand that ban lists are very common in other games, I almost don't want them to be common in a game like Lorcana because if they have constant bans, it's almost like it's like a snowball effect, right? Where you ban one card because the community's freaking out about it, and then now you've got to ban another card because the community's freaking out about it. I still to this day feel terrible that Hiram got absolutely destroyed just because of a single deck variant that was due to they didn't want to ban a card like Bell because it was brand new. And like
Yeah.
Hiram felt so like instrumental in a deck like Red Blue. And then Red Blue not only took a step back, but it took like 17 steps back.
Yeah, it was
And
Mhm.
unplayable for a really long time.
and that's
Yeah.
like, what's the worst thing that could happen to this game is that we say, well, aggro, we need to ban, Grandma Willow. And then you're like, cool, well, like, now I just
Then you
can't
just never
play.
see an aggro deck again.
Yeah,
Like aggro's
Right.
cool. Aggro works when you have like it catches people off guard, right? That's
yeah,
when aggro is like the I don't know. It's hard to sometimes like it's hard to defend like given one side of the polarizing thing you're on, right?
yeah,
But
Hmm.
what make aggro interesting is that it comes out of nowhere and it's like, oh man, I just didn't even think about this deck.
yeah.
When it's like if it's 25% of the meta share, it can never work because then everybody's like, well, I just beat aggro every time with this list.
Yeah. You
Hmm.
find the list that works against it, and then you just go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never going to be that way across the board, right? Because I think the only reason why I think Red, Blue, and Blurple had such a relevant, like a gravitational pull, was because you could win going on the play or going on
Yeah.
or going on the draw, and
Well, I
you had that
think
option.
the most unhealthy card in like red blue was always dime, right?
Yeah,
It's like I be prepared and then I
Always,
just win instantly.
yeah,
Like, what
always.
do you mean? Or it's like I be prepared and I have two McDucks on the field. That was bad too.
yeah,
But at least that's a little bit more interesting. Like, oh, I just have to deal with the McDucks before be prepared, right?
yeah,
So I can
Mhm.
run like item hate or location hate. There's cards that banish locations, right? If that was the only issue, red blue would have been fine,
right.
right? You should have deck building options that work.
It had
But
so many different ways.
yeah, but it's like, oh, I have 10 items in play, so I just win right now.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So
So
it's tough,
I
but
don't know. Dime was like I feel like they also because of red blues like dominance over that time, they over corrected on be prepared too.
yeah.
Like that's another discussion in itself. But I think be prepared could have just come back in its full power and been complete like still as playable,
Yeah.
like unplayable as it was at the end of like its reign, right? Because in the shark deck, they didn't really play that many.
No. And it to me, B prep was such a like I think seven was such a sweet spot because it kind of you could find a good curve for it. Eight is so clunky, and the fact that you also can't sing it, and it still gets hit by Mowgli, like and it still gets hit by Ludwig. Like you're in this spot where you're like, it's just not the same as
I
it
think people
was.
would have been surprised, right? Without McDuck, I think Be Prepared's value drops heavily.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
sure, it's a great comeback card. Like, it was good in
Absolutely.
like Red Purple utilized it cool like the best as a comeback card because they were like, oh, now I can just play Rabbit, I can
Mhm.
play Genie, I can do all these
Hmm.
things, but those don't
Right.
exist anymore.
Right.
So it's like, why do you
But
be prepared now?
Yeah.
Like, you're
well, I
just
mean,
not
you
going
do
to
have
do anything after.
you have other alternatives though. I mean, we still do have Genie, and we have
Right.
other evasives that
Yeah.
we could play that help you gain value. So I do believe that it would still have its same very swingy
It would
effect.
have like this niche in a couple decks, but it wouldn't have like the crazy I'm red blue, I just play be prepared and immediately win the game off of McDuck and
Hmm.
dime and then Sisu and
Sure, sure.
another be prepared.
Yeah.
So I think
Good.
those kinds of like that control aspect of the card has kind of gone away. It's more of a reset button and we like you still give advantage to your opponent in every case of be prepared unless you sang it, right?
Yeah.
And that's like that went away. So I don't know. I just think a banish all characters like kind of impacts the person who played it more than the opponent at this like in this current set of cards.
Well, and being able to play it for something other than I have to pay 8 ink and
Yeah.
and for it being uninkable and like things like that, like it just really it is such a dead card sitting in your hand for so long because there's just nothing you can do with it besides get to 8 ink. And so it's kind of like I was talking with my wife and, shout out to her because she's the only one that commented on any of our platforms with decks
Ah,
that she's
hooray!
excited about. But also she did say that her husband's going to build those decks for her. So it's,
Oh,
There you
very
go.
thoughtful.
yeah, it makes sense.
What a
What a good
husband.
guy.
But I was
Yeah.
like, I was talking to her about it and she's like, I want a board wipe in it. And I was like, okay. And I'm starting to look and I'm like, honestly, the fact that Raging Storm is 8 cost and there's no alternative way to play it, Wreck-It Ralph gets so much more attractive as a board wipe.
Yeah,
So much
He
yeah,
more
does.
attractive as a
for
board
He
wipe.
does.
sure.
Yeah, because you're just like, oh, it's only 7 now.
Like, why would I
And
ever play the freaking like action that costs 8 when I can just play the Madam Mim combo?
yeah,
And there's like cards that like filter my deck to get it faster. I don't know.
Mhm.
I think it's antithetical to like how you want to play the game, like the 8 cost board wipe,
Mhm.
because if you're winning, you never play it.
No.
So it just sits in your hand or you TPO it, right?
Yeah.
And if you're behind, you don't have enough tools to come back. Like, I don't know. It's like so strange.
Yeah. It feels like a weird card to just drop on the board and
But
I don't know.
I say that, and there will be like blue yellow decks that top 32 at the next DLC. I guarantee you. Like
Oh
there
yeah.
will be, but
Mhm.
Well,
I
because
don't know.
there's still ways to draw after the fact. And I mean,
Yeah, there's some things. There's like the Judy Hops and all sorts of stuff, but it's like it feels like it's in a worse spot than Be Prepared ever was.
absolutely. I think
I
it's
think they did
tough.
that by design.
Yeah.
I think that was done by design
Yeah, yeah.
You got to commit
because
to it,
this,
right? You're basically like,
yeah,
I'm committing to this board wipe. And I mean, I think it's one of those things too where you're never running both Spooky Sight and Raging Storm. You got
I
your Spooky Sight people, you
have
got
you
your Raging
guys
Storm
put
people.
Spooky Sight in a deck like since it's been released? Have you guys done that?
I don't think there's a reason.
Sometimes that card sucks.
I think it's bad, dude. I will stand by my original thoughts on it, and I think it's a bad card. I just
It's
think it's
not
bad.
great. I have to play it today. I'm playing the worst garbage you've ever heard of today. I'm
Let's
playing red
go.
blue.
Let's go. I'm
I'm
so
playing the
excited.
spiciest, nastiest deck.
That's awesome. That's the best thing to be playing in a,
It's the
final tournament of the
the
meta.
last
last hurrah.
hurrah. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I'm playing the
Do it.
nastiest red blue.
that's
It'll
amazing.
beat like everything but dogs and yellow purple. I think I have a good shot at, but like it's so nasty.
That's
You'll see
fun.
it.
I'm excited.
But
I'm excited to come over and
I do
watch.
have this hard stop because I got to make my way to the tournament. So
Indeed. Yeah, we gotta
yeah,
stop it here. I think obviously we got through all the good stuff. Like I said, the giveaways, I will announce the pack giveaway for the Whispers in the Well pack. That we did have a few more, we had a couple of other commenters, but not about decks. And I'm gonna, I guess preemptively award the gateway to my wife, which the nice thing about that is my wife and I teach people all over the valley how to play the game. So that's just gonna go in
There it is.
our travel kit to teach people how to play Lorcana. So
Perfect.
uh,
Love that.
yeah, I agree. If I rather it go to somebody who's going to utilize it for its true purpose than just rip it open and put it in their collection, right?
yeah,
So
no, I'm gonna keep all the cards that are in there, and we'll just teach people that way because the one thing that I do really hate is teaching somebody how to play Lorcana with my meta deck when they have not had a chance to build a meta deck, and I'm just like, this is how my deck works, and they're like, well, my deck sucks, and I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, my deck costs $400, so it's a little different.
So yeah,
But
a little different there.
all right,
But
guys,
thanks for letting me yap about the meta. I'm always happy to do it. And then
heck yeah.
I got carried away this time, so
great
that's
opinions.
okay.
You did not. You did not. I love it. All right, guys, we'll have a great week. We'll see y'all next week.
Catch you next
Best
week,
of luck,
guys.
guys. See ya.